The rain came down in sheets that afternoon, turning the world into a blur of gray and cold. Mark Stevens stood at the bus stop, his daughter Emma's hand tucked safely in his, watching the water pool around their feet. He was exhausted, the kind of bone-deep, tired that comes from being both mother and father to a 7-year-old, while juggling 2 jobs and a mountain of unpaid bills. But when he saw the young woman with the white cane stumbling at the edge of the curb, her hand outstretched and trembling, something inside him refused to look away. She couldn't have been more than 20, with rain-soaked dark hair, plastered to her cheeks and fingers that searched the air like they were reading invisible words. Her cane tapped frantically against the pavement, and Mark watched as a bus roared past, splashing water that soaked her completely. She didn't cry out. She just stood there, shaking, lost in a world she couldn't see. "Stay right here, sweetheart," Mark whispered to Emma, releasing her hand for just a moment. He crossed the few feet between them and gently touched the young woman's shoulder. She flinched, startled, her breath catching. "I'm sorry to startle you," Mark said softly. "I'm Mark. You look like you could use some help. Are you trying to catch a bus?" The young woman's face turned toward his voice, and Mark noticed her eyes, beautiful but unseeing, with a distant quality that seemed to look through him rather than at him. She nodded slowly. "The number 7, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I need to get to Mercy Hospital." Mark felt Emma tug at his jacket. His own bus would arrive any minute, the one that would get them home in time for him to change and rush to his night shift at the warehouse. Missing it meant missing work, and missing work meant risking the job he desperately needed. But something in the young woman's voice, something fragile and frightened, made the decision for him. "The number 7 doesn't run for another hour on Thursdays," Mark said gently. "But Mercy Hospital isn't far. Why don't you let me walk you there? My daughter and I were headed that direction anyway." It was a lie, but it was the kind of lie that felt necessary. The young woman hesitated, her fingers gripping her cane tighter. "I can't ask you to do that. I've already been such a burden to everyone today." "You're not asking. I'm offering. And trust me, you're not a burden." Mark extended his arm. "I'm going to guide your hand to my elbow, okay? That way you can hold on while we walk." She nodded, and Mark carefully took her hand, cold and trembling, and placed it on his arm. Emma moved to his other side, her small hand finding his again. Together, the 3 of them began walking through the rain. "What's your name?" Emma asked, her voice bright despite the weather. "Lily," the young woman replied, and for the first time, Mark saw the hint of a smile touch her lips. "That's a pretty name. I'm Emma. That's my daddy. He helps people all the time." Mark felt his throat tighten at his daughter's words. He didn't feel like someone who helped people. Most days, he felt like he was barely keeping his head above water, struggling to be enough for Emma while grieving the wife. He'd lost to cancer 2 years ago. But children saw the world differently. They saw the truth that adults forgot. As they walked, Lily began to talk. It started slowly, hesitantly, but soon the words poured out like she'd been holding them back for too long. She told them about the accident 6 months ago, the car crash that had stolen her sight and killed her fiancé. She described the darkness that had swallowed her life, the way every day felt like drowning, the suffocating fear of existing in a world she could no longer navigate. "My parents try," Lily said, her voice cracking. "But I can I can feel how much I've become a burden to them. My mom cries when she thinks I can't hear her. My dad works extra hours to pay for my therapy and doctors, and I just feel like everyone would be better off if I wasn't here anymore." Mark stopped walking. The rain continued to fall, but everything else seemed to go silent. Emma squeezed his hand tighter. "Lily," Mark said, his voice firm but gentle. "Look at me. Listen to me. I lost my wife 2 years ago to cancer. Emma lost her mother. There were days, weeks even, where I wanted to give up, where I thought Emma would be better off with someone else. Someone stronger, someone who had their life together. But you know what I learned?" Lily's face turned toward him, rain mixing with tears on her cheeks. "I learned that the people who love us don't see us as burdens. They see us as reasons. Reasons to get up in the morning. Reasons to work harder. Reasons to believe that life, even with all its pain and darkness, is still worth fighting for. Your parents aren't crying because you're a burden. They're crying because they love you and they hurt when you hurt. That's what love does. But I can't do anything anymore, Lily whispered. I can't work. I can't drive. I can't even cross a street without getting lost. What kind of life is that? Emma suddenly let go of Mark's hand and moved in front of Lily. Miss Lily, my teacher at school can't see either. She has a dog that helps her, and she's the best teacher ever. She taught me to read, and she always knows when someone is sad even, though she can't see their face. She says she sees with her heart instead. Mark watched as Lily's expression crumbled. She sank down to her knees in the rain, and Emma wrapped her small arms around her neck. Mark knelt beside them both, his own eyes burning with tears he'd been holding back for too long. I was going to the hospital today to say goodbye to my grandmother. Lily finally admitted, her voice broken. She's the only one who never treated me like I was fragile or broken after the accident. She's 93 and dying, and I wanted to see her, to be with her, one last time. But I got lost. I couldn't find the right bus. I couldn't ask anyone for help because I've asked for so much help lately that I couldn't bear to be a burden one more time. Mark helped Lily to her feet. Then let's get you to your grandmother. Right now. We're almost there. They arrived at Mercy Hospital 15 minutes later. Soaked to the bone, but together. Mark walked Lily all the way to her grandmother's room, with Emma holding Lily's other hand. When they reached the door, Lily paused. I don't know how to thank you, she said, turning toward Mark's voice. You missed your bus. You walked in the rain. You listened to a stranger fall apart on a sidewalk. Why? Why would you do that for someone you don't even know? Mark thought about his answer carefully. He thought about Sarah, his late wife, who had spent her final months teaching him that love wasn't about grand gestures. It was about showing up. It was about seeing someone struggle and choosing not to look away. Because 3 months after my wife died, I stood on a bridge, Mark said quietly. I stood there for 2 hours, convincing myself that Emma would be better off without me. And then a stranger, a woman I'd never met, stopped her car and sat with me. She didn't try to fix me or tell me everything would be okay. She just sat there and told me about her own son, who she'd lost 5 years earlier. She told me that grief doesn't make us weak, it makes us human, and that sometimes the bravest thing we can do is accept help from people who care. Lily's hand found Mark's face, her fingers gently touching his cheek. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you for seeing me when I felt invisible. Mark and Emma waited outside while Lily visited her grandmother. 40 minutes later, Lily emerged with red eyes, but something different in her expression. Something that looked like peace. Her grandmother had made her promise to keep fighting, to keep living, to understand that her value wasn't in what she could see or do, but in who she was. As they prepared to leave, Lily pressed a piece of paper into Mark's hand. My number, she said. I'd like Emma to meet my teacher, the one who's helping me learn to navigate my new normal. And I'd like to stay in touch, if that's okay. I think I'd like to have friends who understand that it's okay to not be okay sometimes. Mark smiled, truly smiled, for the first time in weeks. We'd like that too. 6 months later, Mark stood in the same spot where he'd first met, Lily. But everything was different now. He watched as Lily, now confident with her cane and her new guide dog, helped a confused elderly man find his bus. Emma stood beside her, chattering happily about her day at school. And Mark understood something profound, that the moment we choose to help someone else, we're also helping ourselves. We're reminded that we're not alone in our struggles, that compassion is the thread that connects us all, and that sometimes the people we save end up saving us right back. The truth that had left him, speechless that rainy afternoon, wasn't just Lily's pain, it was the recognition of his own. 2 broken people meeting at a bus stop, both drowning in different ways, both finding lifelines in an unexpected act of kindness. It was the realization that we're all stumbling through darkness sometimes, and the greatest gift we can offer each other is simply this: to stop, to reach out a hand and to say, you're not alone. I see you, and you matter.